Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Seth.
And this is Never TMI,
where we talk about real things.
And nothing is ever off limits. Ooh, I'm so excited. This is season 2, you guys.
Season 2, Never TMI podcast.
Let's go. We also didn't give you guys a warning that season 1 was ending because of a few different things. I was like going to give birth any day. And with that came a little bit of stress and a little bit of arguing. So some
heavy emotions,
we literally came on here to record and we were like, we literally can't do this. And we never want to be fake with you guys. And typically, like, if we're in an argument or something like that, we work it out and we're able to like come together, film. But when I tell you, it was like, it was rough.
Just that peak point of like, so close to pregnancy, and then
so close to birth, not pregnancy. But yes,
same thing. Not really, but so close to the birth day, and just
it just was. It was like
it
wasn't happening,
and and then we had some audio issues a couple of times. So
it was rough. It was a rough time, but I feel like this. I mean, we're 6 weeks today. 6 weeks postpartum, which feels so good. I was like, what am I, a mother? And I'm like, today is literally the mark. And I feel like this past month and a half has really, it's been a roller coaster. So crucial, so crazy. Probably more conversation about like real things, just big things, important things, little things, everything. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're both sort of people that kind of underestimate like massive change, and we just are roll with it people. So I feel like we sort of underestimated like, okay, we're bringing a new baby into the family. It's going to be fine. But it was pretty big shift.
Yeah, it was definitely like a change of, like, it's like a permanent change of season.
Yeah.
And I think we, probably the last days before giving birth, we kind of were starting to understand that.
Uh-huh. It was like, wow.
It was like around the podcast. It was like, wow, like this isn't going to be the same. Mm-hmm. Trying to talk about like, pre-birth, what it's been like, and just really reflecting on like, wow, we're never going to be a family of just 4 people again. Like
now we're outnumbered. We actually literally, this is our babysitter's first day today. So there's a lot going on. So much to talk to you guys about, which I'm really excited about. We'll do other episodes on probably talking about a babysitter, and just why we made that decision, how postpartum has been on us so far, adding a third baby. I'm very excited to talk to you about all that. But today we are talking about my birth story. I guess my birth story, not our birth story, but I cannot wait, and I feel like I've gotten the most questions on this, so I was like, we have to start with my birth story just because it was just so special, and I feel like one of the last episodes was talking about my VBAC experience. I can't quite remember, but either way, I feel like I mentioned, like, I just hope that this experience with Michael is even like half of what it was with Evan, because it was so special. It was wonderful. And it was even better, like, which is crazy to say, and just such a blessing, so humbling. I feel, I don't know, I always say like I'm undeserving of it, and people are like, why do you say that? Like, why? You are deserving, you are. And I don't say it in a way of like, I don't deserve like a good birth. It's like, but at the end of the day, like, I don't, we don't deserve just wonderful things to happen to us all the time or whatever. So I was fully aware of the fact that like things could go wrong and I wouldn't get my dream birth, and I would, for me, have to have like an emergency C-section. And that to me personally is like not what I want at all. And so I'm like very aware of that. And I think as my perspective and even yours has changed like over time, I feel like we're more like we understand more of like, I don't know, we're just not owed these things.
Yeah, I definitely think it comes with a sense of gratitude.
Yeah.
And just like kind of just the like as we get older, I feel like we have to relearn like or retrain our mind from all these selfish motives of just like
And spiritually too, like.
And you see it as like when some of the kids' first words are mine or no, and it's just like all about what you want. And so like really trying to reframe the way that we live life from a place of gratitude, and we don't deserve anything. But I mean, praise God in Christ, like we have the things that we need, and
I think even even spiritually, like that played such a huge piece or part in my birth, because I was at such peace. I just kind of like handed it to him, whereas I would say with Kennedy, I was like so angry at the Lord. I was like, how could you let this happen to me? And for those of you who don't know, I just had to have a C-section because she was breech. So I wanted to go all natural. I was doing every appointment at the birthing center. Like a hospital was not even in my mind. And at the end of it, I was just so mad. I was like, I can't believe this is like my reality. Like, why out of all my sisters do I have to have a C-section, all that kind of stuff. Long story short, my sister who I was pregnant with had a stillbirth, and that was at 37 weeks, and that literally changed my life. It changed all of our lives in some way, shape, or form. And I think for me, the biggest thing was that perspective, literally. Like it was not God's fault that happened, or that I had to have a C-section when I didn't want one. Like, so I don't know, I won't get into that, but all that to say, going into giving birth to Michael, I was very aware that this might not, I can pray and believe and like hope for the best birth ever, but it might not be that. And that's just life. That's reality. And God is still good. So.
And I guess also just to fill in the gap. So Kennedy was a C-section because she was breech. Evan was then a VBAC, successful VBAC. And I learned this time. Every baby after a VBAC is still considered a VBAC.
Yes. So it's like VBAC 2, VBAC 3,
so
whatever.
Once you have a VBAC, everything after that is still a VBAC. So. Yeah.
Or like maybe it's like second vaginal birth after C-section. Sometimes people ask, what's a VBAC? And that's what it is. So yeah, this was my second VBAC attempt, which I find is like a bigger deal than I thought. I feel like a lot of people are questioning it, or questioning themselves if they can do it, or like, I'm scared because there's that, some doctors can scare you and be like, uterine rupture is like the thing, like the big fear, the big risk is the word I'm looking for. And that's very real. And if it happens, that's a big deal. But there's complications in birth, whatever route you go. Like, you're signing a waiver no matter what, So for me, I think it's less than 1% is the risk of that. And looking into that myself, I was like, oh, I'm way more comfortable. I thought it was like 50% that your uterus can explode, but that's not the case. If you are like wanting to attempt a VBAC, but I don't know. I feel like my our OB, I absolutely love. We've built like a wonderful relationship, and he's kind of granola. So I feel like anything that I'm wanting to do, he's been open to. Like, he's been he does C-sections like almost every day. He delivers babies, I'm sure every day at some point. Maybe not, but either way, I knew what I wanted, and he was like on board with that. So I do think that's very important, to have someone that you trust, who is for you and who cares about you, who's not just trying to talk you into having a C-section or getting induced or whatever. Like, if you feel iffy about it, like, I don't know, I I don't care how late in the game it is. Like if you feel like not comfortable, I would highly recommend like looking into that, like praying about like, should I go with someone else or something? Cause that was everything for my birth experience. So anyway, with Michael, I feel like I haven't answered anyone's questions because I'm like just excited to talk about it on here and give you guys the full thing. But I guess the first thing I did was what? Castor oil? Was that like the first step I took? No. I should tell you about like prepping for labor, I would say. And I think I did a little bit, so I won't go so into it. But the main things that I did this time were barrage oil, putting the little capsules literally in your vagina. And it like ripens your cervix, makes it like softer and kind of like, cause you can be dilated to a 10, but like not ready to push, you know, yeah. and it could be, that's where you see people pushing for hours, which is really, I can't imagine. But the barrage oil helps. So I started that. I think you can start with one capsule at 36 weeks. And then at 37 weeks, I started doing 2. So every single night, shove them up there as far as you can possibly put them. They just dissolve. And, sleep with like a panty liner or a pad or something, because it like what goes up must come down. But the goal is to like ripen everything, soften everything. And that is super, super helpful. So I would say that was like my number one thing that I would recommend, if anything. I didn't really do the dates this time. They're really expensive. And to have 6 dates a day I hate dates. So it was just like unattainable to me. So I just kind of skipped that one. We had them every now and then, but I was like, no, I pop a few in my smoothie, but that's it. And then curb walking, just to like, the goal is to just lower the baby. So curb walking helped. I did that at some point every day. Red raspberry leaf tea, I had about 4 bags to 6 bags a day, like in the morning and in the evening. Sometimes I was so over it, so I didn't do it at all, but that is supposed to help. And I could tell a very clear difference in my contractions, in my Braxton Hicks even, when I drank that tea. And that is the point of the tea, is to stimulate like uterine contractions. When I tell you I took it within 30 minutes, I was like, whew, these are intense. So that was huge.
It intensifies it.
Yes. It stimulates them. So any kind of like movement, when you curb walk, when you go for a walk, you'll have more Braxton Hicks contractions. Like, and everything is helpful. So like every little thing you do. And I think that's a good reminder to have. I feel like before you're just waiting for the day that you like go into labor, right? But remembering that like every squat that you do, every time you roll on the ball, every cup of tea that you have, every date that you eat, it all is like progress, and it's important. And I didn't really do that with any of my other ones. So I really didn't want to tear this time. That was like my number one goal, I would say, is just to not tear. And so I did all of those things, and then I wanted to get induced at 39 weeks. Was it 39 exactly? I think it was a few days after 39 weeks, just because of like the hospital schedule and all that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of my date. I think like 39 was my goal, and it ended up being like 39 and 1 or 2 or something. But the reasoning behind wanting to be induced was just like, I don't know, the baby was full term. I heard so many people have great experiences with it. And of course, I was willing to push it back if I felt like my body wasn't ready, but I feel like I was so ready. It's baby number 3. I probably wouldn't have done it, with my first baby. I wasn't planning to at all, and I didn't. So I would say this time I felt very confident, and I was like, I'm ready. She's ready. We're good to go. Everything looked on time. Everything looked like on that last ultrasound, like everything just felt like we can do this, and she's going to be more than healthy. And That was just kind of like the piece that we had was like, let's go with 39.
And that's something too that I've learned.
Yeah.
Is like you hear people do it both ways. Like
Totally.
some people literally just it's a natural thing and they wait. Their body's going to tell them when they're ready exactly, and that's when they go. I've also heard people who've had 5 kids and they've all been scheduled, deliveries, and they, use Pitocin, and it's just like clockwork. And so,
yeah. And even it's funny because my sister literally naturally induces at 37 weeks every time. That's just the way that she does it. And I was like, okay, like her babies have come out perfectly fine. And so I don't know, that went into it too. I was like, it's okay. Like if you feel ready, if you feel at peace, and obviously I had talked to my OB. It's not like I'm just making decisions on my own with zero education. So I had looked it up a ton, talked to a bunch of people, and was like, okay, let's induce. And because I've had a C-section, my OB recommended that we kind of like take it slowly. So it was fine. He's like, yes, where this is your 3rd baby, that's great. We can do that. But he didn't want to just like pump me up with Pitocin and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I'll get to that. So we're literally going to a movie the night of, we're like on our way to go see a movie, and the hospital calls, and we had scheduled the induction. Or no, I forgot to talk about castor oil. I took castor oil. Somebody asked me that yesterday actually, and I was like, yes, I know it's a controversial subject. I know it's like some people are very passionate about it, one way or the other. I personally, again, did my research, told my OB, even spoke with a midwife with Kennedy. Like I remember that, and they were like fine with it. They actually sell it at the birthing center. And so, for me personally, I felt fine with it. I know there's a risk. The main risk is, like because it is a laxative, kind of like stimulant, whatever, the fear or the risk, the worry that people have is that the baby will like swallow their own meconium. So that first poop that they have could be in utero while they're still inside of you, and that's really dangerous. It can be fatal. And so it is like a big deal, but that's the risk. But again, there's a lot of people who have done it, and based on all the research, the risk is very small. However, just so you guys are informed, like that is why some people are like super against it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at and why people are like absolutely not. But anyway, I decided to do it. I did it with Evan as well, and I do feel like that made a massive difference because I got induced with her too, because they didn't want me to go too far after having a C-section. So I did it with her too, and it was fine. And even though it didn't like break my water or anything, I do believe it sent me into labor because when I got to the hospital, they didn't have to do like half the things they were going to. With Michael, with this one, I did the castor oil, I think the night before, or no, I did it a few days before to hopefully, get things going. And it did. I lost my mucus plug in pieces. Like it wasn't like fully, gone, which is crazy because the same thing happened with Evan. There were like signs of labor happening. And I at least just wanted to help things along naturally before like going and just, starting labor from nowhere. So thankfully that worked out perfectly because lost my mucus plug in pieces. I never had like a bloody show. My water has never broken ever. But I didn't have like real intense contractions at all, but the Braxton Hicks contractions definitely picked up, and some were like, this is like hard to breathe through and talk through and all that. But so we're on our way to the movie, and I think we were supposed to get there at like 5 p.m. or something. I don't know. But so we kind of had the day. My parents had the girls, and we're on our way to go see this movie, and the hospital calls and is like, hey, like, basically, where are you? Like, you're supposed to be here. And we were like, what? Like, we thought it was scheduled for like 5 p.m. and they're like, oh, that's totally fine. Like, you can come in now though, like if you want, or you can come back later. And for some reason I was just like, there's no way that I can like sit through a movie knowing I could be giving birth right now. So let's go to the hospital. I think it was literally like the next exit. We were like, let's go. And so we went to the hospital. We, you know, you sign a bajillion papers, and it's like, what did we even do when we were there? I kind of forget, like the first initial piece.
Well, I mean, it's the standard hospital protocol. Like,
they're signing a bunch of waivers.
Not even that, but it's just, you go to the room, you put the robe on. There's people, like the nurses
that your
come
butt
in.
cheeks.
Yeah, just like
it's always
kind of
so
getting
humbling.
situated the room, hooking you up to all the monitors, like,
yeah,
you know, getting like a baseline.
Oh yeah, they strap those monitors around the baby to hear them.
Yeah, and then then it was a waiting game. And
yeah.
We waited for quite a while. Like,
till what? What do you mean?
I mean, because then at that point, it's like, then they start the Pitocin and...
Okay, yes. So I said I wanted the epidural first. Like, that is kind of... It's what I did with Evan. And again, I was like going for the same effect as Evan because that was wonderful. So, you know, I'm talking to the nurses who were a dream, like an absolute dream, which again, I know does not always happen. And so I'm just so thankful. We prayed about that, and I'm just like, I look back and they were just all so special each time. And sometimes, like, even if you get like a nurse that's kind of a little bit more aggressive, like, you never know, that might be what you need. You know what I mean? Like in certain moments. So, one of my nurses was just really strong, I would say. So like, she wasn't like, oh honey, but she was the perfect amount of like, rub my back here and there, but also be like, this is nothing, you're fine. And that is so helpful to me sometimes when I want to like start crying and it's like, I can't believe we're doing that. Like, she's like, no, you're good, you got this, you can do this. She was actually a midwife in the Ukraine, and so that, you know, she's like, we don't do the epidurals and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, so I just need to like suck it up because we're fine. Anyway, so that helped just to like make things less intense and like emotional and serious in my mind. She was just incredible. But anyway, so I had said I wanted the epidural right away because I was getting induced. That was fine. They're like, once you commit essentially to giving birth,
right,
you can get the epidural because we're basically going to do whatever we need to do to have this baby while you're here. So, the epidural was a nightmare. I will say that was like the worst part by far. Which again, I didn't feel anything after that. So maybe that's like to be expected, but it really wasn't great. And it's fine because I remember in the moment I was like, I never want to do this again. I hate this. Like, this is painful. However, this is the worst it's going to be. And after this, I'm not going to feel anything. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. It was just like, this is really painful. But I also feel like it took longer than normal. And I think he had to try a few times, you know?
Yeah, he had to try several times. And at that point, we had some of Jackie's sisters in the room, and one of her sisters even had to leave just because it was like, he just couldn't get it. And that the weird thing is that's what happened with Evan too.
Yeah, like, literally.
I don't know what it is.
I feel like we kind of said like, maybe epidurals suck and they're just like trying to be nice about it and not make you scared, but like, and I don't want to like scare anyone. If you haven't had a baby and you're getting an epidural, like I will say it's got to be a million times better than like, physically pain wise, actually like giving birth and all that kind of stuff. Like I didn't want to feel anything. If I tore, I didn't want to feel the contractions. I wanted to be fully present and just, again, I've done my research and I've had so many conversations with people. All my sisters give birth naturally. Well, some of them. And I'm like, I don't know if I can physically handle that. I can get so nauseous when it comes to blood, all that. Like, I just wanted to be, I don't know. I have a low pain tolerance, I think, too. So unless it's like self-inflicted, like I pierced my own belly button, my ears, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like other people, even getting a wax down there is like a nightmare. Like I hate it. It just is. If someone else is in control, it's nauseating to me. So anyway, the epidural was very painful, but I also think part of it was just because it did take him a while and he had to keep trying, because I was like, nope, I still feel that. No, I feel that, like that, whatever. And I don't know. But then he like shifted me over like half an inch and he got it. So it took like 15, 20 minutes. But I think I was just in like the wrong position. I don't know. It was not fun. But everything after that was pretty much smooth sailing. They broke my water. They, they did the catheter and all that kind of stuff. And then, the Pitocin was going, and it was a very like slow drip of Pitocin. So it took a while, but that's kind of what I wanted. That's what the OB wanted. Like, I didn't want to just be like, I didn't want my body to get there like sooner than
too fast.
Yeah, I didn't want to get there too fast. Again, that's the whole like uterine rupture thing too. I didn't want anything like that. And so I didn't care how long it took. It was like, I'm in this for the long haul. Like, you can take as long as you need, body, but like, we're going to get there. So I didn't want it to happen too fast to where I was pushed. Like, I didn't want to just get to a 10. Like, I wanted my body to be ready to be, like ripe and just like whatever. So a lot of that time after the epidural and, all that kind of stuff was just waiting, sleeping, laying there. Sorry, there's a hair here. Okay. Sleeping, or at least trying to sleep, resting. And this was the first time with Evan, I didn't have any control over it, but with this time I could like press it and it could administer more of the epidural. So that was kind of cool. And I kind of held off here and there because I was like, I kind of feel these contractions. Sometimes it was, I don't know, I'd never felt intense contractions, and so I just wanted to feel them here and there, and I was like, no, this is too much and terrible. Like, I did not want to feel those anymore. So kind of right before it was like time to push, I had gotten to a 10, but I think this time it was probably a couple hours, right? Was it like an hour or two before I felt the urge to push? Because I got to a 10 and I was like, oh, is it okay if I just wait? I don't know how long that was.
Yeah, I don't know that. I would say it was
hours. With Evan, it was. This one, I feel like, even when I got to a 10, I was like, I feel like we're getting there, but I'm not quite ready yet. And again, like, the nurses were wonderful, and I had already told my OB, like, I just want to wait until I have the urge. So like, once I get to a 10, I don't want it to be like, all right, let's go. So I could tell, like, okay, I like feel pressure, but that pressure, I'm telling you, wait until it gets to a point to where you feel like there's a poop that is coming out of you. Like, that's what it feels like. That is when I was like, I'm ready. Where you can't help but push. Like, I was laying there and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And they were like, great, we'll get, the OB, all that kind of stuff. And by the time they were ready, I was like naturally like pushing, like I couldn't really help it. And so that's kind of the point that I wanted to get to.
And I think that's the thing with birth is, even though there's added pieces to it, like the epidural, the Pitocin,
Yeah.
birth is still such a natural process.
Like it's going to happen whether you want it to or not.
And like your body is like getting this thing out of
Yeah.
you, and it knows how to do it.
Yeah. No, my my best friend, her name is Tiana, and she's wonderful. But she is a doula and helps to like be there when the baby's being born, and is such a critical part of like that process for people, for women. And that was really comforting when she told me that. She's like, your body will get rid of that baby. Like, if you're ready or not. That's where you hear people giving birth in the parking lot. It's like, you cannot hold it in. So I wanted to feel that. Like and obviously, like when you feel that pressure, like your body's ready. Your body did that. Do you know what I mean? So, and obviously I had the help of Pitocin, but still it was like, okay, it's time. We're feeling it. Like, and I just feel like when you hit a 10 and you're like, great, we're at a 10, let's go. There's so many other factors. And, I did not want to push for a long time. I didn't want to tear. I didn't want to like bust the baby out before it was ready. So if there's just one thing that I try to encourage women to do, is just to wait until you feel the urge. And yes, with an epidural, you can feel that urge. You just can. If you wait for it, it will be there. But I think that was probably the most important piece of everything, is just wait until you feel the urge to push. So I did. It was probably like an hour, because I remember my sisters being like, they were there for so long, and they're like, you feeling it yet? And I was like, no. I literally was like, you guys can leave. I'm so sorry. Like, this is just taking a while. But I was not willing to compromise. So finally I feel the urge, literally could not stop pushing. Like I was pushing naturally on my own, and could feel the head like right there. And then when she looked, she's like, I see the head. It's right there. So they were like, great, got in there. Now, the big thing that, the big like difference with this birth is that I pushed on my side, and that was the best thing I ever did. And I will never do it any other way now. But I had told the nurses, like I had prepped them.
Wait, you pushed on your side at the hospital?
Were you not there? Get out of here.
I'm kidding.
Yes.
But you can do that.
You can. That's you can do whatever you want. I mean, I had looked up.
It does. It's good to prep, like, and that was part of the prep process.
Yeah.
I think that, when we got in there, going back 12 hours, like that was one of the first things
I had said.
You had mentioned to the, what do you call them? Doula, or not doulas, midwives.
Yes.
Like,
no, they're not midwives or doulas. They're nurses.
Oh, okay, yeah. But it was just like, no, it's something like my goal is, to do this naturally, have a successful VBAC, but I also want to push on my side. And that was something that you may know from the beginning. And, yeah.
So when we first got there, that was one of the things that I had said, like right off the bat. I knew my OB. I didn't even ask, which is kind of crazy. I didn't even I don't think I even mentioned it to him until he literally got there. But I had said, because it was just something I wanted to do. I knew that it was fine to do. Like I knew that it was possible. So I wasn't going to be like, is it okay if I do this and all that? I was like, no, I'm doing this, and I know there's a way. And so, and I think too, when you're dealing with a hospital, I knew my OB would be perfectly fine with it, but there are some who might not be, or who might not be comfortable with that. And so I do think it is important, if you're not sure, to like ask your OB, or that's kind of why I wanted like the nursing staff at least to be aware. 'Cause I was like, I know this isn't standard, but like, I want to push on my side. And they were like, Some of them were a little like unsure. They're like, okay. But overall, they were like, that's great. You can do that. We'll figure it out. And so when it was time, I think it was, how long was I laboring for? Like from when I got there to when I started pushing, how long was that?
I would say you probably started around 7 or 8, and then
after all the
baby
paperwork and stuff.
Like,
8 the next day, right? It was
probably just before.
So it was like 12 hours. Yeah, from start to finish. But again, I wasn't in labor, and so that was like being induced and taking it slow. That's how long it took. I know with third babies, had I waited until like my water broke or something, I'm sure it would have been really quick. But it was a little bit more drawn out because I was induced and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, when I was ready to push, they got me on my side, and obviously I can't feel anything. And so they just knew and said, someone's going to have to hold one of your legs. And I was like, great, Seth can hold it because that's quite the task. And it was like completely, like my left leg could feel a little bit, like I could still wiggle my toes. I could still like move my knee, whatever. My right leg was gone. And they say that the epidural kind of like favors one side or the other. And, you know, you got to flip on your side every now and then. Like I made sure to just even be like, okay, Seth, can you help me like switch the side, switch that side, just so it's like evenly administered. But my right leg was completely gone. And even like postpartum, like in the having to go pee, because they want you to pee for like the first time after you have your baby and all that kind of stuff. Like once the epidural wears off, they have you go pee. I literally I still couldn't feel my leg. Like it took so long. It took hours for that to go away on my right side. But anyway, Seth held my leg, and I think I pushed 2 or 3 times. Like I pushed on a contraction. So I just waited until I had a contraction, and they were like, okay, you know, her head was like already there. So I pushed, and when I tell you I wasn't even like, I had to like remember to push as hard as I could, because I was just like, okay, I'm pushing. And I was like, okay, I need to push as hard as I can. And on that last like push, again, 2, 3 pushes tops, she was out, and they put her on my chest, and it was so special. I don't know, I'm not someone that's like bawling their eyes out or like hand her to me. I was like, you go ahead and wipe her off. Like, I'm good. But I was wearing a sports bra, and I like literally tucked her in my little sports bra. We did skin to skin. I just laid there for a second. I did tear a tiny bit. But healing has been amazing. It feels like I didn't tear at all. Like it definitely burned for like, I don't know. When the numbing wore off and stuff, it was pretty sore down there, but like healing has been incredible. I would say like 3 weeks postpartum was when I felt like, okay, we're good. Obviously, you just had a baby. Like not everything feels perfect, but down there, like especially now, like 6 weeks postpartum, I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. And it feels good. It feels like nothing happened at all. Things feel a little bit more open, I will say that, but like that is just natural, and things continue to like shrink and go back to normal and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, body wise, physically, all that kind of stuff, like things don't look normal by any means, but I mean, we stayed there overnight, so our goal was to leave 24 hours after. That's kind of like, we're just ready to go home. It's like we have 2 other kids, we've done this before, so we just want to go home. So they moved us into the postpartum room pretty shortly after. Like I think I had to pee, and then they were like, great, we'll move you into the postpartum room. And for the first like several hours, it's just like, what is happening? They're doing these tests. They're like pushing on your stomach to make sure like you're not clotting and all that kind of stuff. Everything's tender, sore, whatever. But by the next day, we tried to kind of get all of our paperwork done. And a few of you asked, like, wow, you only stay for 24 hours. That's so short. I don't know what it is. I just want to go home. Like, it's just one of those things. And I literally told Seth before I even gave birth, I was like, if I'm stressing or freaking out about going home, just remind me that it's fine. Because I think it's just hospitals in general or something. It's just not my favorite. So I'm like, I really want to go home. So this time I was a lot more chill than I was with Evan, like trying to get out of there. But it still is just like, I want to go home to my babies. I want to be home, period. I want to, like, whatever. And at the birthing center, it's crazy because you can give birth and I think they make you leave within 6 hours. Like 6 hours is max. And they're just kind of like, whatever. So I feel like with your first, sometimes it can be really helpful. And some people want that. That's just not my personality. So I'm like, I will figure it out or I'll call my mom. I just want to go home. So within 24 hours, we were just ready. And what did we order? What food did we get? I forget.
Jimmy John's.
Yeah, but what else? I think we had like a burger. Did we have Five Guys or Whataburger or something?
Oh, I don't
know. The evening
of.
Do you remember that?
I remember trying to collect the food from the Uber driver or the.
Oh my gosh.
And that was a nightmare.
Yeah, we ordered food one night and it was like a disaster because we were like, we're just at the hospital. Like, how hard for an Uber driver to be like, where, what?
What would you say though, like looking back on your birth experience with Michael, what would you say was like your biggest accomplishment with that you're really proud of? And then what's something that you would say, if we were to have another baby, what's something then that you would want to do different for that one?
I would say what I'm most proud of is like doing it. Number one, it's like just making it. I don't know, like pregnancy for me is not fun. Like, I'm not one of those people that will ever be like, I love being pregnant. I love it. Like, yes, it's beautiful, but I don't enjoy it. And it gets rough at the end. And obviously it's so worth it. But like, I would say.
And not to diminish that.
No, of course. I think it like, yeah.
I guess I'm more asking specifically.
For the birth.
Like, because this is your third birth.
Yeah.
Like from, and not even from an advice standpoint.
I know you're talking about the experience, right? Like the birth just like, experience.
Having this being your third time around.
Yeah.
Is there something that you feel like you really did or that you've learned from the past two that you implemented here that you were like, wow, excuse me, like, wow, I learned this, I did it, and it worked out great, and I'm really proud of that. Or, because obviously, every birth is to go 9 months and have a baby, like that's a huge accomplishment.
Of course. I think what I mean by like the 9 months is like when I look back at like, man, I'm really proud of myself when it came to that birth. I think it was just like, yes, like, okay, I did this again. And that is not easy. But I also think the confidence that I had maybe compared to the other ones, like going to the hospital, saying, hey, I want to push on my side, which I know isn't normal to them. I think just being confident in the way that I want to do things, like, no, I want to wait until I have the urge to push. I think that I'm really thankful for because I believe it made my experience. But also really proud that I was just less like timid and afraid to like ask for things that I really wanted, or like I knew this is possible. So I'm not asking you, I'm telling you I want to lay on my side when I push. So that is something I think I'm really proud of. I think something I would do differently. It's hard because there truly isn't anything I wish I did differently, which I'm very thankful for. Part of me wants to experience going into labor naturally, but I think by the time I get to the end, I'm so done. So it's like, why wait an extra 1, 2, potentially 3 weeks when I don't have to? And if this experience could be positive, like, what's the point? But like, there's just this curious part of me that is like,
experience, like,
I want to experience, like, I want my water, but people's water, like, some of my sisters give naturally, and their water breaks when they're pushing and whatever. So I think maybe that, but overall, I feel like it was such a wonderful. It's not like it was so like, obviously the epidural, again, like, that didn't feel very good, but it's like, it is what it is, and that is just how it went. There's nothing I can change. And
some of those things are out of your control that you just
totally
I like that, having a better mindset. I mean, I feel like you can take that to anything, and if you can improve your mindset, your experience is going to be that much better.
Okay, so last thing, how was your birth experience? Like, how was it for you? What's like a little snippet of advice you would give the men out there who are on the other end of bringing a baby into the world, kind of at the hospital? Like, what was that like for you? And then kind of how would you encourage anyone, like, bringing a baby into the world, whether it's their first or their fifth?
I think overall this was a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was different for me in the sense that Kennedy was a COVID baby.
Yes.
Right. 2019. Yes. So, like,
the amount of people.
No one was in the hospital room except for myself and one other person. Or no,
my sister who took pictures. Yeah.
No. Kennedy wasn't a COVID baby. She was a C-section.
She was a COVID.
But it was still pre-COVID, but we could only have one other person in the delivery room because it was a C-section.
Yeah.
Evan was a COVID baby in the sense that there couldn't be more.
It was kind of like after,
visitors.
So it's like it wasn't the time that your husband couldn't even go, but it was still like heavy restriction.
They limited, you could only have one other or two other people in the room, and so that was different. So this was the first time where it was like no restrictions. And having your sisters there, that was different. And I was a little nervous about it at first because part of, I feel like, my role is to maintain an atmosphere of peace in the room.
Yeah.
And so having more people, that's just more opportunities for something to go wrong or someone to say something, like, and not that, I love everyone. It was a great environment. It was really enjoyable, and you're
just in protective mode.
Yeah, and it's not just with family, but it's also the nurses who are coming in. Every time there's like a staff change, it's always like, okay, like, who's coming? Who's the new nurse? You see someone new walk through the door, like, who are you? Why are you here? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. So, and so I think that was different, and that was a good experience. Like, I would say if there was anything that was probably more challenging about it was the fact that, like, the timing of going into labor.
Yeah.
Knowing that you were probably going to labor for a while and starting it at like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something about that that's like, the whole night process, not getting tons of sleep. That was probably the hardest part. But I think, for anyone, it's just all about support, having a positive attitude and your willingness to help. Like, and I think for us, having a game plan was probably the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the more you do it, the more you know what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah.
So I feel like this time around, we really knew those things. We knew what we didn't want and we knew what we would want. Obviously, if something else happens, then you have to roll with the punches there. But I think that was great. Our OB is fantastic. Like, building a relationship with your OB, I think it paid so many dividends in so many different ways. Like, we just enjoy even spending time with them outside of, like, the pregnancy thing. So, like, that was a great experience, and something I would recommend is investing into
that relationship.
I
mean, he literally feels like family. Yeah.
And it's just like, people are people, and so you can kind of help create that environment by establishing relationships with the people that you're going to be working with. And I feel so blessed that we were blessed with great people. So that was excellent.
Yeah.
And even on the other side, switching from the birthing side to then the recovery side, having a plan, and just being upfront with the people. It's like, I think for us to stay at the hospital 2 days with Kennedy was necessary. One, it was a C-section. Two,
Totally.
we had no idea. And
yeah,
I know Jackie needed that time to recover. We needed the help from the nurses. It's great to have nurses that can literally come and take the baby to whatever, the incubator room, in the middle of the night. There's so many helpful resources there. Third time around, I would say we definitely didn't need that. And knowing that, we're able to approach the nurses and they do a great job too of kind of giving you a game plan.
Yeah.
These are the things that you need to do before you can leave. And so knowing that, we just got on the same page with the nurse and tried to knock everything out up front.
Yeah.
And that really made for a smooth transition to then, be able to leave, and knowing that we did everything and just.
I think too, just a perspective shift when it is when you've done it before. I was so much less they're like, oh, we, I remember one time they came in and they're like, we can give her a bath and then we can keep her there a little bit longer if you want, and just hold her and all that. And I was like, that would be amazing, just so I can get some sleep. With Kennedy, never. Evan, even, I was like, no, give me my baby. I want to be every waking sign, whatever. And maybe you have to just kind of experience that regardless on your own. I don't think anyone with Kennedy could have talked me into just let him, go for the night and all that kind of stuff. I know my younger sister, when she had a baby, she did that. They were like, we can take her back into the nursery and just hold him. And, she felt so guilty and was like, am I the worst? And it's like, no, absolutely not. You're taking that baby home. That is your baby and you've got him for the rest of your life. And so this time I think we were just more comfortable and we were like, yeah, please, because I need sleep. And this is the first time I'm not having to wake up and pee a million times. And, I'm going to take this baby home. And just like she is right now, I will be up all night. And so I think just the comfortability level was different. And we were just like, sure, take her back there. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel terrible. Whatever. With feeding her, I didn't feel like I needed to lean over, grab her, wake her up, and all. It was just we're good.
And I felt a mutual respect too from the nurses as well. It's when they know that it's your third baby,
they're like, oh, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, there's the reciprocated okay, I don't need to give you my whole spiel because I know you've done this already, and and I think that's knowing that people are there. They should be there for the right reasons, but they're there to help you. And I feel
literally
everyone that we interacted with was there to really.
They're like, let us know what you need.
For us.
Yeah, there's literally a button that you just press if you need anything, medicine, if you need anyone, everyone. And there were probably 10 to 15 people that we had to interact with during our time there, just on a consistent basis. And everyone, literally every single person, was very sweet, very kind. And so
I just want to say shout out to nurses and doctors.
Oh my gosh.
I think sometimes they can kind of get put in different lights, and even through COVID, I feel like it's are you on the good side or the bad side?
Yeah.
Are you for medicine or against it? But when you really look at the people who are there for the right reasons and have a heart to help people, I couldn't imagine doing these experiences without having professionals to help through it. It would just be, it'd be miserable. It would be so much harder.
Scary.
So, just really
traumatic.
I think I want to say thank you to people who are nurses, people who are doctors, people who've put in so much time and energy to study to do that.
to help, literally.
Right. To be someone who can help people in need. And I don't know. I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And I think I was pretty scared, especially like coming out of COVID. I think there was so much information that kind of just made you feel like uneasy about the whole healthcare system, and Lord knows it has its issues. But I'm so thankful for the experiences that we've gotten to have with the nurses. And like, it's just a reminder like, oh, this is like, you're amazing. This is not like scary, or I don't feel like I'm being manipulated. Like, it's like, no. And sure, there are absolutely situations where you may need to advocate for yourself, for sure. But the fact that I did not feel that once, like the fact that I did not feel like I had to like really stand up for myself and really stick it to anyone, that's such a blessing and such a gift, and hopefully an encouragement to anyone who is giving birth at a hospital. Like, it could be wonderful, like it could be really, really great and special. We have two amazing experiences that we went into very guarded that ended up being so beautiful. Like, I could get emotional just thinking about like, wow, I did not deserve this incredible experience, and like, here we are. So we're just very, very thankful for that. And it was overall just an amazing experience. And we, Lord willing, we will have more babies. And like, literally my prayer is just like, okay, like, we would love for that to happen again. We would love an amazing experience again, another wonderful one, and that's it. So hopefully this was encouraging to you if you have never had a baby, if you're pregnant, whatever, even if you've had a baby already, or potentially a VBAC, if you're going for that, or if you're unsure of it. Like, our experience was wonderful, and so thank you for letting us share that with you guys.
Yeah, it's great to be back on the podcast.
It feels good. Something feels right.
Yeah, we're excited for a new season with y'all, and just to dive in deep. And we just want to say thank you for all of our listeners who tune in, and we apologize again for the delay without any...
for the drop-off.
Yeah, without any notice, but hopefully, Lord willing, we're going to be back consistently now.
Yeah.
Every Thursday for season 2.
Every Thursday. Did I just literally burp in this microphone? I'm so sorry. Yes, we are so excited. We love you guys so much. We are just so stinking thankful that we even get to do this. So thank you for listening. Like, we get to do this because of you guys. And so we're so thankful and so excited. This is going to be a good season. We've got some great topics in store, and we just literally can't wait. So thank you guys. We love you.
And again, I am Seth.
And I'm Jackie.
This is Never TMI, and we are signing off.
Peace out.